welcome to the Rake. We have a brilliant guest today, a multi-talented woman who's not only a chess champion, a published author, a sponsored poker pro, and an award-winning podcaster, but also manages to get it all done while being mom to the one and only Fabi. So welcome Jennifer Shahade to the Rake.
Thank you so much, baby. It's so good to be on your guys' show. I'm really excited.
Oh, we're very excited to have you. There is so much stuff to cover. So normally we would go with a guest and say, oh, what kind of stuff do you want to talk about? I just have a list of 100 things and we're like eliminating things to talk about. So one thing that has come up a lot recently that we wanted to ask you about was this huge chess boom that seems to be happening. And what is that like for you, having spent so much of your life already in the chess world?
I think to the outside, it looks like it's so sudden. But to me, I feel like the groundwork has been laid over like the last decade. Chess has been a part of my life forever. And it just feels like every year it gets a little bit better. And then so like a lot of gradual progress. And then, because of a lot of factors related to, a horrible time in the world in America that actually really helped chess. So yeah, a lot of the good stuff. It's just like one thing after another, like Magnus Carlsen, this incredibly charismatic, good looking man who has a lot of interest outside chess, becoming a world champion. And that was many years ago. And then also you have the St. Louis Chess Club, which is just pouring so many resources into the chess world every year. And then the streaming and chess.com. Isai actually, who used to be the founder, who was the founder of PokerStars, actually is now part of chess.com. So yeah, there's just like all of these things that were just positive over like the last decade. And then therefore, when chess started to boom, everybody was ready to kind of like push it in that right direction.
That's really interesting because that's sort of how the poker boom was as well. Everyone credits Moneymaker and the Moneymaker effect. He, an amateur beating a pro, Sammy Farha, on TV, everyone getting to watch it with hole cards. There was a lot leading up to that I wasn't even aware of until the tragic passing of Mike Sexton, finding out how much he had going on behind the scenes before Moneymaker, where they were pushing hole cards and making it more basically viewer friendly to watch. And that's really interesting that chess sort of had the same thing, because as an outsider, I'm watching, I'm like, wow, it got really huge. And I was wondering what the impetus was for that, but it seems like it has been growing for many years.
Yeah, and there's a lot of competition too. I think that's good. So there's like there's like warring chess sites. There's Chess24, which is like Magnus's brand. There's chess.com, which if you play casually is probably the one you go to. Then there's Chess, which is totally free, which is, awesome for people who can't afford to even get, chess.com can be free too, but you get all of the different features on Chess, even if you don't have any money. So all of these different sites, particularly Chess24 and chess.com, they were trying to grab market share. And so a lot of money was poured into supporting projects. And you see the positive impact of that it's just really good for the fans and for the players.
Yeah, and specifically Twitch is blowing up. I know you know the Bote sisters pretty well. I don't know if I know you're doing some coaching as well. I think they're pretty good in their own right, but as well as Hikaru, I know is huge. He's friends with Spraggy, and it's really booming. What do you think about what about chess lends itself to Twitch, the format of it?
Well, I think that it's a really fun game that you can play. Unlike poker, you don't have to have a delay, because for the most part, you can just it's true that the chat could comment moves, but usually they don't do that, and you can just kind of look at the board. Most of the games that are played in chess are very, very fast paced on Twitch. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, especially Hikaru and Alexandra Lopez will play 1 minute games or 2 minute games. So even though people might have this idea of chess as a boring game, it's actually pretty much one of the fastest games you can play. And the cool thing about it being so short is that you can really get your fans involved. It's not that big of a deal to have some of your subs play you, because it's only going to take a minute, right? Hikaru will beat his subs in a minute. So he can do that, and it's just part of the fun, getting everybody involved. Mm-hmm. I think that really is one of the reasons. And then it really cuts across all countries, cultures, and ages. I had Finton on the grid, and he was talking about this in regard to poker as well, that the cool thing about poker is you really get different crowds than you might on Twitch in general. It's not just teenagers. It's like a lot of like, 20 to 50. And in chess, you get the same thing, except not just 20 to 50, you actually get like 13 to 50, right? Mm-hmm. And that's really cool.
Yeah,
sorry, I don't want to insult any seniors here who are big. I'm saying.
I wanted to ask you a little about that with chess. You do a lot of outreach to young girls and do a lot of mentoring. And I want to hear a little bit about that. And then a follow-up question is, would you be willing to do that with poker, or do you think it's a better game to learn as a grown-up?
That's interesting. Well, let me start with the first part. So I've been really invested in, encouraging girls to chess pretty much through my whole career. I mean, at different levels, depending on like how busy I was with other stuff. But I wrote 2 books, Chess Fix, and then a follow-up, Play Like a Girl, to encourage girls to, take up this game, because I think that there's so many things they can learn from it. Just get confidence. They get to play in the same field as boys or men. And also, because there's fewer of us, if you do really put that commitment in, a lot of times you get more opportunities, which we also see in poker. If you can kind of overcome the obstacles, like the potential harassment, people underestimating you. Once you overcome that, there's like a lot of great opportunities for women and girls. So yeah, I've been pushing it my whole life, but the last couple of years I've taken on an official role where I'm the director of this women's program at US Chess, where we're explicitly trying to increase their numbers. So we're fundraising, and then we try to create different events that will like drive more girls and women into chess. And the interesting thing about the last 6 months is it's really unlocked a lot of things for me that I never would have thought of. Like, one of the biggest problems we've had with girls in chess, which has been forever basically, is that young girls are interested, but then when they get to like high school age or like 12 or 13, they usually drop it. And so that's been like the biggest issue, retention, right? Like we just see all of them go to other things. And
everyone wants to be cool. I was in piano since I was like 6, and as soon as I hit 12, I was like, I want to be a model. Fuck this, and I just gave up piano, and I regret it. These kind of, I don't want to say nerdy things, but like we should stick with them as girls. And I think that, not to go off on a tangent, but like high school makes us want to do like things that are cool or whatever, like,
for sure. So I think that's definitely true. It makes that's when I feel like most girls start to feel pressure and feeling self-conscious, wanting to be like pretty and like cool and accepted rather than pursuing a passion. And yeah, I feel like you're scooping up some of these girls at a really pivotal moment of their lives when maybe they would have let it fall to the wayside, but instead they're like, oh, okay, well, Jen's pretty cool and she does this. Maybe it's something that's worth doing for, many more years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did also do a lot of partnerships and events with the Botez sisters, which was really helpful as well, because that kind of introduces this other pathway. Like, maybe you won't be the best chess player in the world, but you'll be like really good. And you also could, find a career as like a streamer or a celebrity in chess, even if you don't get to like the world championship level. And, that, and the thing there is that you also meet so many interesting people along the way. But I guess specifically with the last 6 months, we've been doing a lot of workshops online. And what I think really is great about those is that usually when you do like a women's chess event or a girls' chess event in person, it's like a lot of really cute little girls, like literally like 4 years old to 11 years old, right? They're all like really into it, want to play you, find out more. But the kids who are like 12 to 15 kind of get overshadowed because there's like so many young girls. Whereas like now that we're doing it online, I feel like it's kind of flipped. Like the teenagers are like the ones who are kind of like in the spotlight. They're the cool ones. They know the technology better. They like kind of take the lead. And so that's been really interesting. And I wish I'd known that before, because that it's totally unlocked things for me. Like now I get it. Like we have to continue with this like online method even after this is all over.
That is something like just a complete tangent, but I feel like I'm hanging out with friends more now that online is just like acceptable. When we play our Mafia game, Party Mafia, every week, and I spend maybe 5 or 6 hours with friends hanging out, and I don't usually do that
And
in
now
real
you're
life.
trying to kill us all.
Yeah. Yes, I am trying to kill you all. No, but it's kind of interesting that I think once the pandemic is over, I hope certain things stick around, which is that, you know, it's really cool that you're coaching people online more. It makes it more accessible to a lot of people, and it makes it more reasonable, a more reasonable demand of your time, that you don't have to go travel somewhere in order to like get this stuff done. And I think some other stuff, just like the fact that I don't feel isolated despite not really seeing many people because we're doing stuff online. And I'm a lazy person socially, and it would be nice if this was acceptable to just drink with your friends online.
Oh, absolutely. And you're right. It's that lower cost, because even for these classes that I'm doing for the teens, it's like, you know, I have all of these amazing people who live all over the world. Like you guys would have heard of some of them, certainly Marle, like Anna Rudolph, Alexandra Botez, as we've already talked about, Q, like all these people. It's not as hard to be like, can you come for an hour to inspire these girls, because they're just going to do a Zoom session, and girls are just so blown away by it. And that opportunity is something people really, I think we missed this in the past. Yeah. And now we remember, and hopefully take like the best from both worlds.
I mean, so Jamie touched on it earlier. Maybe you answered it, maybe I missed it. But do you think we can do the same with poker? I mean, teaching high school age girls the game and getting them into it, or is there some kind of moral line there?
I think it's really interesting. I believe that the biggest issue with that is it requires like a financial education. So I would think that like the financial education has to be embedded within the poker education, because it's you know, it's easy to teach people like the abstract principles of poker. Well, it's not that easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but you can teach that. But then if somebody, because has like a difficult relationship with money because of their circumstances,
or just they don't know how to spend money correctly, like, or just they get $10 and they spend 11. That's or that.
Yeah, I was going to say, Marle and I will attend your first lesson if you.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't had the greatest relationship with money either, but it's not one that's, I think, a dangerous combination with poker necessarily. But yeah, and then I just think that poker, like one of the great things about school is you learn about all these like abstract subjects, and poker is like, so, in a way, there's some really sad truths about it. That the more money you have, like the more successful you're going to be, and like it's just so stark. You know, you need that bankroll, and like the bigger your bankroll, the better chances you are to succeed. Like the better chances you'll have to play against the whales. Like, and I think there's something really true, but also sad about that, and like that. You know, it's a little heartbreaking that for some people it's like be very, very difficult for them to succeed in this field, and you have to kind of like break it to them. But that said, I think, yeah, if you approach it the right way, like with like a financial education in mind, it could be fantastic. Because I remember when I was in school, I didn't learn anything about like probability and combinations. It felt like all the math I learned was about, I don't know, like I guess algebra and geometry. But the stuff that I use in real life now is much more likely to be related to probabilities.
I just had a thought, because just when you were saying that, about maybe there's an indirect way to teach them, because a lot of the skills that are required to be a poker player are assertiveness, are risk-taking, are calculated risk-taking, and this kind of, you know, a lot of sometimes traits that younger girls maybe aren't just inherently taught or developed. And so maybe you don't necessarily need to teach girls cards, but just like reinforcing that, you know, I don't know, risk-taking or going for it kind of personality or something like that. And I think that can be applied to poker and chess and everything else, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Like taking appropriate risks and having the confidence to take them and know that you
speak up for yourself. You know, it applies to everything, you know. Just
yeah, I think Jen indirectly does then, because you did a seminar. Was it called Women Get Paid? Where you discussed like negotiation tactics that women might shy away from because we want to be liked rather than paid well. And I feel like those things, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot that you can teach young girls that will help their poker game and their chess game and their lives. So maybe, yeah, if you feel like there's a moral problem with teaching younger kids a game that's like, you know, centered around money a lot, then maybe just the skills going into it might be a better way to approach it.
Oh yeah, and then definitely after that, there's college and young women. I've definitely done a lot of workshops and events for them, and then I don't really have any issues with it at all. And I think it's just for me personally, because I do so much work with girls in chess. I have my hands full with that. So in poker, I kind of like to focus a little bit on other things, but I'm really excited for other people to kind of also push this women in poker and try to figure out how it could work for girls, I think that would be great. And I know there's a lot of people working on it. There's a lot of really great women's poker groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
true.
Yeah.
To pivot just a little bit, we both deal with some online drama, obviously, like anyone does, and how, like, I feel like women deal with it 10 times 10 sometimes. I wanted to ask you, because recently you've been tweeting a lot more about politics and have been more open about your feelings and your leanings. And I wanted to ask how you balance yourself as a brand and wanting to be a good ambassador for stars and everything else and chess.com and everything, but also making your voice heard at a time when it's very important to do so. Like what is your thought process when deciding when to jump into the fray and when to stay out of it?
Well, usually, like when I'm talking about politics, it's like on my personal, Twitter feed or Instagram feed. So I'm not doing it usually on anyone else's platform. But usually, my criteria for speaking up about politics is normally I have something interesting to say that I don't think a lot of other people are saying. That's normally my criteria. But so even now, I think that I try to use those guidelines. But it is a very unprecedented time. So I think this is a little bit different, that I feel a duty as an American to speak up when the president is, refusing to disavow white supremacy. I think we all need to just put it on record that we were there and we said that this is not okay and it's not normal. And that I felt that at various moments throughout the last 4 years, but obviously with heightened awareness as we actually have some power in the upcoming weeks to change this. And I think every voice is important. And people say you're preaching to the choir. And while sometimes I think that's true, I think that I also sometimes get messages from people who are undecided. I really do. I have messages where people who are undecided see some of my tweets and they just want to reach out. And maybe sometimes they're using it as an excuse to talk to me. I don't know for sure, but I definitely have experienced that. And I think that with some of our audiences, being on Twitch, you definitely reach those younger people who are 18 plus, and maybe voting for the first time. So they could be inspired to just vote or to sign up or to encourage their friends who aren't online to do the same.
It's so hard. And I saw that you posted at one point, people say, and they say it to me too, but stay in your lane, just focus on poker, whatever it is that you do. And it's so hard because I feel like in the past, I don't know, it's so hard because on the one hand, I do think that they're right. And just speaking for myself, there are a lot of people that are smarter than me that can say the same thing, basically. So sometimes I'm just okay, why don't I just stay in my lane? But especially in 2020, it's just so hard. And you kind of have to reconcile the fact that you're going to lose followers or you're going to lose fans or you're going to lose friends by doing that. But in 2020, it almost feels naked to not say it, to not say anything. It's just weird to just constantly post silly, frivolous poker or silly stuff when look at what's going on in the world, and it.
Yeah. And that people will hate you for that too. If you, let's say this week is insane, obviously there's a lot of insane news flying around. And if you're just here's a picture of my face with chips, there's going to be people who don't like you because of that. They'll be like, Marle, seriously, at a time like this, you're going to post about poker? And then when you don't post about poker and you post about something that means a lot to you and you're like, hey, we should make sure that there aren't forced hysterectomies at these detention centers. And people will be like, Jamie, shut up, stick to poker. Mm-hmm. I feel like I have to say something once in a while or I will burst, even if it's a joke or even if it's some snarky comment. I feel like I'm being true to myself if I let it out once in a while rather than just ignore things that are way more important than the bullshit stuff I usually post.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like also extremely pragmatic. I feel like that's something I generally will post something if in some part of me feels like it has like a benefit. So I know there's a lot of progressives out there who are a little less pragmatic, and have love for them. I think it's important to have people who are more radical in both of their beliefs and also their actions. But I know that some people like, Biden wasn't their first choice, and that was really hard for them to like rah rah. And I didn't really like that. As soon as Biden was our man, I just forgot about everyone else. I mean, like I'm just like that's just the way I am. I'm very
You're
pragmatic.
monogamous. You're a monogamous voter. It's very good of you.
We have a goal, and so like I feel like that also kind of like fits my personality to kind of like keep up the energy, which I think is important. I mean, of course, the risk is that you alienate people. I mean, that's always the risk. That would maybe be interested in hearing what you say down the line, right? But
But with not just with politics, like even myself, like I just started doing therapy twice a week, and I've been in it for over a month. But one of the big things is like, I even creatively, like I need to take risks. I need to kind of, do things that are like uncomfortable or whatever. And that's the kind of thing where, I think me and Jamie talked about this the other day. It's like, as women, we want to be liked, we want to be popular or whatever. But I don't know, like you just got to be true to you, whether that's with politics or whether that's with creative stuff. You just, and Jamie too, with like your jokes and stuff, it's like, you just got to kind of own it, I think.
I think it helps a lot to give some credit. I feel like it's interesting. I just realized this now that we all have like a significant other who is extremely accepting of the stuff that we do. And I think that makes a big difference in my life. I don't want to speak for you guys, but for me, I'm like, oh, I don't have to be well liked. I don't have to be like a cool girl. Like Chris is pretty happy with me being just a psychopath once in a while and letting jokes fly that are way off color or whatever. And I feel like having support like that is really important when you start to feel like you're being judged for being yourself, or people are telling you to be silent and stick to poker, stick to whatever they think you should be talking about. I feel like having a really good support system is like extremely important in my life for letting me have like the voice I want to project. How do you guys feel?
absolutely, definitely, Jen was always so supportive. And I mean, generally, I have to admit, you should stop posting about politics too much. Is like probably the nicest thing a girl has ever said to me. those, those aren't usually the ones that Daniel gets upset about.
Is your husband in poker or
No, he doesn't play poker or chess. He's more in like film and media. So yeah, he produces my podcast. Actually.
cool.
He's great with like sound and editing.
Mm-hmm. I think so. You might take this would be like if I wanted to pick you up at a bar, Jen. This is how I would neg you. You have definitely worked on the tone of your voice a lot. Like from your pods, I remember that was a troll thing where people used to be just dickheads to you. They would just be like, her voice is grating and blah, blah, or whatever they wanted to say. I feel like you have like taken the nastiest troll comments and turned them into like positive, I don't know, just like recommendations for you. I can't do that. If someone's like, you're fat and stupid and whatever, I'm like, that person gets shut out. I kind of feel like you take troll comments and actually turn them into something good. Do you work on that? I don't know.
That's really sweet of you to say. I think, one of the issues is I think there's also been a little bit more tolerance for my type of voice type. There was a lot, maybe like 6 years ago, there was just like everybody hates this like vocal fry. And it just became like the dominant, like more dominant in media. So people just kind of got used to it more. So maybe it's not me who's changed, but like people are more willing to listen to people like me.
Well, I never thought your voice was annoying ever. But I feel like, I don't know, maybe that's it. But I think I like that tone of voice. Like Susie Colbert, who does sportscasting, has one of my favorite like newscasting voices. Like, and it's just a deeper toned female voice. Maybe I like that because I'm trying to, because I want those voices around, but I don't know. I just thought maybe that you take in the impossible task of taking the things trolls say and actually trying to pick out the constructive part of it. I can't do that.
Well, I will say this. It's like when I do podcasts or interviews, I have a little bit more of like equilibrium. Whereas sometimes one of the difficult things is like if I'm doing a chess commentary and I'm like watching Magnus Carlsen, Nakamura, and there's this like crazy move. It's suddenly like I'm forced to like have this range where I'm like really excited, and that can be difficult and it can be hard for other people to hear. And I'm not saying that they're okay. It's okay for them to say like horrible sexist stuff, but I can understand why that's like just a little bit more of a difficult range, especially for a woman, because people do get so upset by like the shrill or the screaming from a female.
Some of those people are upset. Some of those people are upset that they have to listen to a woman at all. So I feel like those comments like can be taken with a grain of salt, that they're just like, her voice isn't deep and manly. It's like, she's a woman.
Well, they don't normally hear women excited, so.
Burn. That's good.
Nice.
That'll be the highlight we put on Instagram.
So you
for it, Marle.
live in Pennsylvania and you play on Stars there. How much poker are you playing these days, and what kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, I'm really lucky, aren't I? I mean, Poker Stars PA, it's like the second state in America where online poker launched, and they've been talking about it for a while, but it had been in the works, and then it launched officially in November 2019. So I was super lucky, because then obviously the pandemic hit 5 months later, and I've been able to play online poker, whereas so many people in the United States don't have a regulated site to play on. So I feel super fortunate, and I mostly play tournaments there. I mean, it's like the best thing. It's the best match when I stream, and there's a lot of really good ones. I mean, they're just constantly putting out another good series. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm super happy about it. Sometimes these days it's a little hard to focus on poker because of everything that's going on in the world. But I'm really grateful that I'm able to do that. I've always been somebody who really loves studying poker, but without playing poker, you don't really know what to study. So it's just so fortunate that I'm able to play on it.
What's it like having a young child at home right now? I've seen multiple tweets from women that I really like saying that the like homeschooling type of thing, even when there's a teacher teaching them over Zoom, that it's like mandatory for a parent to be over their shoulder helping them with the technology or whatever. Is it a big handful to have a child at home while working from home, while trying to play poker and everything else that you do in your life?
Yeah, but we're pretty lucky. First of all, I heard there's this like homeschool like red zone, like, and our son's a little younger. He's 3.5, so that's an age where we would definitely have preferred to send him to preschool this year, like for sure, because it's great for socializing and education. But it doesn't feel like mandatory, and we have to pay for it. Whereas, like, if you have a kindergartner, that just breaks my heart. So the moms and dads who don't get to send their 5 or 6-year-olds to kindergarten, because it's just like such a special time. And if you're not able to send your kids to private school, it's like paid for. And it's just obviously not a substitute to do remote learning. But yeah, we're lucky, and my son's pretty introverted, I think. So even though it's difficult, I think, not being able to socialize, he also does like to kind of just play by himself for hours, or with us. And so yeah, we're pretty fortunate. But yeah, it's a harrowing time. And honestly, the issue for me more comes with my work with girls. To go back to that, like I'm constantly trying to weigh how important it is to keep things private so that we don't get like Zoom bombed or something like that, with the wanting it to be easy to access. So if it's a kid whose parents aren't constantly there, they don't have to like fill out 2 forms and check an email and a follow-up email, like that. I think that's a really tough balance to strike. Because it's not just like little kids, like a lot of older kids too. It can be so complicated to get to the right place, right Zoom room at the right time, and do the homework and find a Google Classroom and all these other different things that people are using. And
financial shortfalls for a lot of families. Like growing up, I didn't have a computer. I can't imagine what life would have been like if there's a pandemic then, and they're like, oh, we're going to have some online classes. I'd be like, okay, I'll see you guys in 6 months. Hope I don't miss too much. I think that's really hard for a lot of poor kids probably are having a huge struggle. It's going to be -1 year of their education pretty much.
Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, the increasing inequality could have like, really long-term effects. Very sad. And generally, like what I try to do, my little part I try to play in that is just I try to make a little bit of an extra effort for kids who I know who are struggling. Like just try to even if they don't sign up, send them the form, send them the Zoom call-in info just in case they can make it. Try to bug their coaches a little bit more. Yeah, it's just like, bug to see if they are interested, if they're not able to for some other reason. And yeah, it's hard though. It's a difficult time. Just very. I think the tough thing with like education and COVID is that as poker players, we understand sometimes we're in a situation in a hand where all of our options are bad and we have to pick the least bad one.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're not in denial. I really do feel like poker has definitely melted parts of my brain that I wish it hadn't, but it's improved other parts. And that is one of them, is that I didn't have as much trouble going, okay, life's going to be worse for a while, and just accept it and not do the denial thing and just go, okay, in order to stay safe and to keep other people safe, my life will be worse for a while. And like, we haven't gone out, we don't do anything because I don't want to get other people sick. I think some other people, I don't know what it is, but it's like there was a huge amount of denial at first and just going, whatever, I'm doing what I want anyway, and it'll be fine. I'm not going to plan my money. I'm not going to plan like anything and whatever. And I just kind of feel like poker has improved certain things like that, where you just go, all right, the outcome is unknown. We won't know for a while. We have to like live our lives with incomplete information until we get more of it and can make better decisions. And I kind of think like that has actually helped me a lot, even though it's melted like the empathy part of my brain and whatever else that could be pretty useful right now.
Yeah, I don't know anything anymore. I'm just completely dead inside. So
how do you guys feel you rank on a scale from 1 to 10 of like introverted to extroverted?
So personally, I'm very introverted, and that's why Jamie doesn't really know this, but I tried the streaming thing and I was like, oh, it'll be great and whatever. I last like a solid hour and I'm like, yeah, and I'm like talking and I'm talking about my hands, whatever. And then I goes mute because I just drain. And it's like, I can do like the vlogs or whatever. And I like to kind of be crazy, or even this podcast for like an hour, and I'll just get it all out. But then the well is dry. You know what I mean? And I just had to come to terms with like, yo, I can't be like Spraggy and Finton, just like, and like you and people who are just so, I don't know. I feel like you're pretty outgoing.
I feel like I'm somewhere in between, but I'm definitely like, for a poker player, maybe I'm slightly more extroverted than average, but I think for like a normal person, I'm like kind of slightly introverted. So yeah, I'm like somewhere in the middle, but just definitely like for the introverts, I think this is a little bit of an easier time, like I do know some people who are really outgoing and they're just dying. They're like jumping out of their skin.
I know, and I'm just not judging them. Like, I won't even say who it is because people would judge her probably. But one of my friends is the most outgoing person I've ever met, where she'll invite me to things. And if I go to 1/10 of the things that she's invited me to, that's a full social life to me. And she was struggling. She took 2 months and did nothing. And I was like, you have to be so sad right now because it's like such a huge change to her life. So she started going to dinners and doing whatever. And I feel like she made her best effort to completely change her personality and still exist and couldn't do it. That would be like if you told me that puppies spread COVID, don't touch puppies. I could last a month and then I'm going to spread COVID. What can I do? And I feel like that I'm mostly introverted to the point where like I can do commentary for 12 hours and then I feel exhausted and sometimes like just get sick from doing like too much outgoing stuff. But so it hasn't affected my life as much. That's why like I don't want to be judgy of other people who it has been such a 180 in their lives and it's impossible for them to keep going for a whole year. And I'm just hoping we get a vaccine soon so that those people don't have to take unnecessary risk in order to like live a fulfilling year.
We interrupt this podcast with an important message from our sponsors at Run It Once. This week on Run It Once Poker, we're adding even more value to our Legends Rewards program by offering an extra cash bonus to any player who completes all 5 levels of a given Legends rank. This offer can mean earning as much as €750, depending on which Legends rank you successfully complete. For full details, head to once.run/cashboost. And if you want to brush up on your poker skills to improve your chances of snagging that bonus, head on over to Run It Once Training, where you'll find the largest library of high-quality poker training content on the web, with 2 new videos posted daily produced by an impressive roster of some of the greatest minds in the game, including Run It Once founder Phil Gelfond. Sign up today at once.run/learn and you'll get free access to 3 of our elite level videos. And now, back to the pod.
It's so hard. I mean, everyone kind of has to do what they have to do. And as long as they take every precaution they can, it's like we have to be understanding that, we're lucky that we can work from home. We're lucky that we can whatever from home. And my heart goes out to people that have to go out and, take those risks, but it's just the reality. Sucks.
Who have to take those risks and then lose their job because there's less people using the services that they provided. So it is pretty important, I think, to be grateful. It's like between like content and poker and chess, there's like, it's kind of made for just holding up in your room and still being able to be productive. And that's a real blessing now.
For sure. I think looking back on 2020, I don't feel like there's certain things I miss so much. I even miss live poker, which means that this pandemic has gone on too long. But I feel like it doesn't feel like -6 months or -8 months, whatever it is at this point. Where at the beginning of it, I was like, oh my God, like if this really lasts so long, it is like we're all put on pause, but it's not, because we're so lucky we have technology and that we have so many different ways to grow even in our own homes by ourselves that, it's an excuse. If you waste a whole year right now, it's kind of just an excuse, I think.
I'm a little bummed because I'm in Ireland and all the pubs are closed. And that's the whole point of coming to Ireland, but I just drink at home. Oh,
This is just, I'm water with B vitamins. I wish I was drinking wine at 1 p.m.
Well, it's like 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 10 o'clock, right?
Almost 9, yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Marley's the only, well, actually you too. I feel like I wouldn't judge you if you're just having like a 4 p.m. wine. If I woke up and just cracked open a bottle of white wine, that would be a little concerning.
Bloody Mary?
Weekend, whatever.
Yeah, that's true. I'm looking at our list of like 900 things to talk about. One last thing, so the hot Netflix documentary that's going around right now is A Social Dilemma. If you guys haven't watched it, I think it's worth watching, even with all of your valid criticisms that you posted, Jen. I think for people who have not thought about the effect that being on your phone constantly and always like on the grid, whatever, does to your brain, for people who've never thought of it, I think it's a good show, a good movie, film, whatever you want to call it. Can't even say documentary because it's so
weird at times, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure what to even refer to as a documentary anymore. Does documentary imply objectivity? Because if it does, then we can't really call it a documentary, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there's like those dramatizations, which I guess could be part of that. Marle, you were going to do a piece on that, like a blog, or is it still in the works?
Yeah, it'll be out probably Monday. It's basically, it's like a spoof, basically. So it's not like a serious commentary on it or anything, but tell us what your criticisms are, and then we can talk about it. But I want to hear what you thought first.
Well, being that I do all this work with teen girls, it kind of, that was probably the first thing that bugged me, that there was this, wide, statement about or point that teen girls are particularly, how do I say it? It felt like there was a lot of criticism of teen girls, not as much of them particularly, but they were saying they were especially infected with this social media addiction, right? And they interviewed this guy, Jonathan Haidt, who wrote like The Closing of the American Mind. And I've heard him talk about this subject in other podcasts. And he's talking about like the rate of teenage mental illness, including for gender as well, and the rate of social media use, and he's showing how they correlate. And then on top of that, they do this dramatization of a teen girl who, just has a downward spiral because of a negative comment. And I'm like, okay, so you spent 30 minutes on that. what about actually interviewing 10 different teen girls during this time about like their Instagram use and like the good things? And guess what? They actually think about this. They have brains and they're thinking critically about it all the time, about what makes them happy about them, what bugs them about it, like what frustrates them. Like I actually listened to an NPR episode ages ago. It was probably like 8 years ago about teen girls and Instagram, and it was fascinating. It was about like how you can't really tell that they're bullying each other because it's like in this weird like negative positive way, where if you don't make like a positive comment that's like extremely over the top, it's like seen as like a slight. And they're just like comparing like the numbers of positive comments and who's not commenting on things. And it was like really interesting. I was like, wow, that's like scary, but like I'm learning things. Like they have this own like network. And like that would have been a lot better than just hearing like, and listen, Jonathan Haidt has lots of great points, I'm sure. I have listened to him and I've been interested. But having an older white man talk for 15 minutes about it, like why don't you actually use the people you're talking about? Because obviously they had the money. So after that, I was just like a little irritated. And they didn't even try to prove causation. They just showed you the chart that showed both graphs were going up. Okay, like I know the people in the documentary certainly know that that's not proof, right? And then there's just like a bunch of other little things, but I'd say that it was like the one thing that really made me mad and caused me to just like give a more all-encompassing critique of it, which was basically always related to the fact that they were analyzing it without taking into consideration different categories. So looking at it from the perspective of somebody who was pretty privileged for the most part, and maybe overlooking all the people who use social media to get attention when they didn't have access to that in their life, and then springboarding them to a great career that would normally go to somebody that was behind the gates.
100%. That's a really interesting, just an interesting note that you made while watching it, because there are people like Twitter is somewhat of a meritocracy, where if you are an amazing comedian, there's a lot of women I follow that are great comics on Twitter that I didn't know about before, but you know, they got retweeted a lot because they're hilarious. And then I found them. And I kind of think they might be overlooked because a lot of times, a lot of comedians say they'll put one woman on the slate. If there's 8 comedians on that night, it's like, oh, we already have the woman. We don't need 2. And on Twitter, I could follow 100 and they're awesome. And there's enough space for everyone to shine if that's, you know, if they're really good and they're really funny. One thing, before I forget to say it, Daniel should do a documentary on and actually focus on the kids' perspective. That would be so interesting. If he literally just interviewed kids and how social media is affecting them, how they feel about themselves, and maybe like trying to pinpoint the age where it becomes an unhealthy obsession. Because I've said to Chris a bunch of times, man, like growing up was hard. And if I grew up with also being like, did people like my picture or not? Like, do they like my face or do I need to put a filter on it? Oh, that's like so horrible. I think like 13-year-old girls have the hardest time anyway. And now they also have this like constant judgment of everything they do and every picture they take and everything. And I don't know, it'd be like super interesting to see see Daniel focus on the stuff that you wished was part of this documentary.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that would be great. And by the way, I still have a lot of issues with social media. Like I think in some ways it's damaged my life. Just the obsession with what people think and trying to, you know, not care, but then really caring. There's a great phrase by this book that I recommended in the thread by Jenny Odell called Algorithmic Attunement, which refers to like, if you are a certain way on social media, like you get pushed as that. They define you. So like if you're somebody, you want to switch from talking about like, say you change your mind about politics and you want to change your viewpoint on one thing, it's hard to do that because they've kind of already put you in a box, and then they're not going to like show the tweets that you write about things that are contrary to that box, right? They'll like shadow ban those ones. So yeah, I think that's like some of the things that bother me about it a lot, that it kind of like takes your identity and encrusts it. So it's hard to then escape whatever that identity is. That is like not really like what the movie was about, but I find that to be like the most worrisome to me.
That's insane because we do change our behaviors based on feedback we receive from social media. So let's say, Jen, you decide, all right, I'm going to put chess and poker aside for a little while, and I'm going to write science fiction because that's my real passion. I'm going to tweet about science fiction, and no one likes it. You get no feedback that's positive. Poker and chess, 1,000 likes. Science fiction, amazingly written, short stories, no likes. You're telling yourself you're bad at it, but really it's not being shown to anyone. So you're getting feedback that's not really true, but you might actually stop posting about the things you're really good at because Twitter told you they don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, one could argue that they're the ones putting this out to more people than is natural anyway. So they're just kind of like taking back something extra that they gave. Mm-hmm. But I still think that it's not necessarily like I'm only blaming them, but it's something like to be aware of that's like another reason why you have to be so careful about caring, because it's based on their algorithms and what they think people will care about, as well as how good it is. Like obviously there's some meritocracy. Like you're really funny and like you guys are very popular in social media, so you know that if you make a funnier tweet or comment, it's going to get a lot more attention, and that's great. But when it doesn't, it could be a combination of two things, right?
Well, with my vlog too, especially like with that one project, it's like I made those 2 videos in the beginning that were really, things I want to do. And then I got kind of pushed into like, but I want more views, but I want more likes. I need more hand history videos. I need to make these hand history videos, which are to me like not fun, and just kind of making these cookie cutter safe videos. I did that for like a year and a half. And then last 6 months, with the help of Scraggy and now my therapist and friends, it's like, oh God, I'm just so much happier that I literally just like, I just know what I have to do, but I have to be honest, like there's still a thing in my head that's like, I still care, about the likes, about the views, about the whatever. And, I think it's so hard to get to the place. It's like literally a daily struggle for me. And, I'm doing therapy, and that's a lot we talk about, but it's like, it's so hard to just trust yourself. And like this current video I'm making now, I've reshot it and edited it. This is the 3rd time I've shot it because I just want it to be right. And I know that it's not right. And that should be enough. You know what I mean? Like when Jamie, you make this great joke or you make this great video, it's like, when it's your best work, when you did your best and you're proud of it, and that should be enough. Why do we need that outside validation? But we've been trained, like you said, by these sites to need it. And
I just show Chris when I have a joke that it's in my drafts because it's not good enough for Twitter. I just show him, and when I get like a chuckle, I'm like, it was good.
Yeah, same thing with Braggy. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some stuff that it's not worth the blowback you're going to get to post it. I just know it. Like I've definitely made choices to not post about certain things or like send out a joke or whatever. Cause I'm like, I don't want to have that like pit of my stomach dread when opening Twitter. That's not the point of it. It's supposed to be for your entertainment. You get some like educational value. Maybe you learn the news faster. Maybe you follow people who make you laugh. It shouldn't be a thing where you feel sick opening it. So that's why I like shy away from certain topics and jokes I want to talk about. But I think that there is that feeling of like, oh, I created something good. I need like some kind of feedback from someone. And once I get that, I'm like, all right, that's enough for me to like entertain someone. But I get what you're saying. It should be internal. This like feedback system we get from social media has made it external. You need external validation for everything. But I don't know, maybe the answer is just to like share the good stuff with your friends and that's enough instead of having to get 1,000 people who like it who don't even know you.
It's hard. I don't know what the answer is, and it's certainly social media is damaging, especially, to me, but I think, like you said, for me, I have to just follow like my gut and just Scraggy and close friends and just go with that, because otherwise I just go crazy, Has Fabi helped you with perspective, Jen? When you like, I feel like Fabi validating me would feel so much better than 1,000 likes. If Fabi was just like, you're cute and you have a good dog, I'd be like, oh, I'm good. Does it help having a very honest toddler around to tell you what he thinks?
Oh yeah, but he can be contrarian. Recently, he hears us talking about like Trump and Biden all the time. Mm-hmm. And so he asked, who does he think is going to win the presidential election? And I tried to trick him. I said, Biden or Harris, right? Just, because I was like, I wanted to hear what he had to say. And he said, Trump's going to win.
Oh, no.
He doesn't know, of course. He's 3.5. He likes to sometimes to say the opposite of what we want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So then I started showing him some pictures of Biden on trains. And now I brought him around. Biden loves trains. Oh my God. He's like an Amtrak fiend. He reads the magazine on Amtrak. That's how much he likes trains. He reads that magazine.
Is he?
And Fabian is like a train now, like a lot of little boys. But and I don't know what it is, but like children, and especially a lot of little boys, they just are obsessed with trains. Like it's just his favorite thing. Like he'll go outside and he'll like count trains.
That's cute. We just had Phil Galfond on talking about Spencer, his obsession with cars, and that he turns every car into a police car now and just goes, woo, woo. There's something about trains and cars. I agree. I wonder if we didn't get like thrown dolls as kids. Maybe every kid would like trains and cars. We just didn't know better.
Yeah. I mean, I think girls also really like them, but it does seem even more pronounced for boys. It's fascinating. Because it becomes like it's almost like an obsession, and I guess it's the excitement of something moving so quickly. And maybe now with these times where he's not able to go on them as much, it's like incredibly exciting. I'm so happy. One of the last things I did with Fabian was take him on the train to New York City, and he almost didn't go because we overslept, and he started to cry. So we were like, because he wanted to go to New York so badly on the train. So, and this was like February. And obviously we haven't really gone anywhere except in a car since then. So I'm glad we got that opportunity. But yeah, no, Fabi, he is definitely just a huge motivation for sure. But not because he tells me that something is good or bad. He's getting really good at chess. Like he's getting good, but he still can't tell me what my right openings are.
What your what?
He still can't judge my moves. He still can't tell me. Jen, that was from Mommy. That was a really good move.
Yeah, I was going to say, if he calls you Jen, too. Wow, bold move, kid.
He did try that once, Mommy Jen.
Maybe we could post some. If I couldn't find the video of Fabi meeting Crouton, that was the best ever. I brought Crouton to her house. I think it's cool, too, that you weren't afraid. You just trusted me that I was like, look, I'm bringing a 60-pound pit bull to your house to meet your tiny child. You're like, send him.
Oh, yeah.
And Fabi loved him. Fabi right away was just like, dog, dog, dog. He kept saying it and like following him around, like touching his tail. It was awesome. Who is it, Fabi?
Oh, he likes you, Fabi.
Fabi, it's a puppy.
Doggy play, yes.
When does he get a puppy is what I'm asking.
That's a good question. A lot of people have gotten puppies during this pandemic, offered a lot of solace. We'll have to reconsider it. Maybe I'll show him this clip and yeah. But no, I think in general, like having a kid just gives you more perspective, but it's also difficult because like financially it changes everything. Like I remember Chad Beebe mentioned something about how when he had kids, it's like suddenly however much money he had felt like nothing. Because it's they're there forever and you want to support them, and like no matter what I think like it just really changes your perspective on your life roll and your bankroll in a way that can be difficult for a lot of poker players. Or it could be good. It could make people take better risks. I guess it just depends on what side you are in.
That's interesting because Sean took a lot of heat for playing Scoop through the birth of one of his kids. Which is like, I understand that viewpoint a lot. Like if my parents were like, hey, look, dad went bowling while you're being born, I'd be like, what the fuck, But it's between them. It was Ashley, his wife, was cool with it and thought financially that's what he should do. And he wanted to do that, and he's so logical. He's just like, this baby won't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really judge people for that. Actually, I think my dad might have done that as well. I've gone to Atlantic City I think it was after I was born when we were like still in the. Yeah, I just think it's a funny story now. But Baby needed a new pair of shoes. But of course, my husband, I really need him there, no doubt. There was one story related to that. At the time of my pregnancy, open face poker and high stakes open face poker was still something that was like a thing. I was making videos for Run It Once on it, and I was playing, a few different high stakes games on my app. And I remember that I was on a downswing in a really big game, and I was trying to like take a yoga class at the same time, and like I literally like went to the bathroom like 2 times, like go on my phone and play like an open face move, because that's like I was so ready to go back in that upswing, and and that was like crazy because it's also not a good circumstance for either thing. Like probably going to play suboptimally in the open face, and I'm going to be suboptimal in the yoga coaches, right? Yeah. And I was pregnant.
Yeah.
So soon after that, I quit those games because I realized that the edge that I had was mostly gone, and it was turning into more of like a gamble.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no reason to play a gambling game for me. It's just using time and adding unnecessarily stress and swings to my life. And I guess until that moment, like of this like ridiculous yoga class, like it hadn't occurred to me. And then it occurred to me that it had turned in from like a strategy game where I was like one of the first persons to figure out certain math about it. And I was like crushing to just enjoying the game and, losing my edge because other people were figuring out those things, partly because the videos I was making. And also probably a lot of other things.
That was Run It Once, right? Didn't you make your first video series for Run It Once on OpenFace?
Yeah. For a couple of years, I was making videos on OpenFace for Run It Once, and a different kind of twist to it. It was like first OpenFace, and then it was like pineapple, and then there were like lowball. So yeah, it had a lot of different permutations. But at the end of quitting those games, I realized that even it doesn't matter where you were at. I was downswinging, but I was like that upstuck word, right? Like I was still up money, but I was like way more before. But I had to quit the biggest game I was playing, and it was a wake up call. So I guess yoga is good.
In conclusion, yoga's good.
Yoga's good.
But being pregnant, I think what I'm also saying is I think being pregnant was part of it, because it was just such a dagger to lose a few $1,000s in a minute. Like it's just a dagger when you're also about to have a kid. It just feels like what am I doing? And so that's the tough thing I think about kids for poker players, that whatever their bankroll is, it's gonna feel like it's a larger percentage than it was before, right?
Yeah, it's tough.
We probably should wrap unless Marle's got a question. Okay. I wanted to direct people to your pods because you won awards for both of them. So she won a Global Poker Award for the Grid, which is a fantastic podcast where Jen goes through 169 starting hands. Each pro selects a hand that they want to talk about, and it turns into a big storytelling kind of pod. So getting away from the hand for a little bit, people usually tell a lot of personal things about themselves, whether they intended to or not. So it's a fantastic pod. And then for people who are interested in chess, Ladies Night is her other award-winning pod. Do you ever get tired of winning, just so much winning?
I think, I have to give credit to my husband for that, because I feel like for awards, like a lot of it is the judges are like really busy. So they maybe listen to a couple episodes, maybe they'll listen to the first 10 minutes of a lot of different episodes. And he's just like so good with like the editing. So I think that really helps me with like the awards thing, because, we always have like really strong openings, and like we do a lot of intensive editing. And I think that when I edit, I tend to focus more on the first part, because I feel like that's where you lose people. If the end's a little sloppier, it's okay. Because at that point, if people are listening that long in, they're probably with me, right?
You're not giving yourself enough credit, though. The substance of the grid is really good. And you've had some people on that My favorite one so far, I haven't listened to Kelly's yet, except I'm sure that one is very good because she's hilarious. I really liked DeVoris's pod, and I didn't know he had such a big personality before, because at the poker table, he's a pretty chill guy, quiet, and how people would say robotic and whatever. And then I just find out he's this like crazy survivalist, backwoodsman, and he talked so passionately about that, and I thought that was so interesting. And I feel like you do a really good job of bringing out just like background in people that I would not have known about from just seeing them at poker.
Thank you. Yeah, and you were on it as well. And that was funny because I had like super sexy voice because I was getting sick. But it was like right before I got so sick that I just sounded like a frog. It was like more of like the sexy frog stage. Oh.
Yeah, I was like, I think Jen is hitting on me for 45 minutes. I didn't complain, but I was like, she's like, welcome to the Rake. And I'm like, whoa, I feel like I should be paying $2.99 a minute for that podcast.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. No, thank you so much. And I mean, I love the guests that you guys are bringing in. I know you had Boris on as well. I loved your episode with Ebony. So it's really cool to be here. And it seems like, yeah, like it's funny, like your pod also, ever since the pandemic, like you just kind of like opened it up so that now you have like the whole world at your fingertips, right? Whereas before you were mostly trying to get in-house guests. So
which is a big ask. It's so tough to get poker players to say, yes, at exactly this time on this day, I will show up at your house and record this. It's like, I don't know, people have been pretty good with it, but there have been like, oh, I'm in a good game at 5 a.m. Let's reschedule. And I'm like, and with the Zoom calls, people are just, okay, yeah, we'll give you an hour. And all over the world, people aren't flaking out because it's a smaller ask to say, please just show up for an hour. It's been great. I'm pushing for, once the pandemic is over, for them to allow us to do Zoom calls anyway, because you're busy. I don't think when you're in Vegas, you're so busy. I don't think you have a few hours to spare most of the time. I think a lot of the really great guests we've had are similar. They're very busy people. It's what makes them great guests. They have a lot to do, a lot to talk about. But yeah, I agree with you that this has been just so much better and just more interesting that we are able to get people from all over the place to be our guests now. So hopefully that continues.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been great. I mean, the grid, we used to do a combination of both, and I think it depends on the person. Like, there's some interviews I'm so grateful that I was able to do in person, like with Bill Chen. Mm-hmm. He's so he's so interesting, but I feel like it really benefits a lot from the in-person contact, you know. And this, I think it's especially true with some introverts. Like, it's better to be in person with them so that you can kind of like drag things out of them. But yeah, like when the computer is mostly your habitat.
It's our new reality. This is the new world we live in. I think it's gonna be a long road back to real life again. But
if they ever let you back in the US, Marle, we might just
seriously. Honestly.
She's like stuck in Dublin, or I don't know. How are you gonna? Yeah, maybe we end with that. Give us the next 6 months of your life, Marle. Are you coming back, or did we lose you forever?
Yeah, so I'm going to be in Florida for Thanksgiving to see my dad, and I'll probably stay there for I'm not sure if I have to quarantine or not, but if I have to, then 2 weeks. And then I'm planning on just going to Vegas from there, probably be in Vegas for at least the whole month of December, and then we'll see. But yeah, I'll definitely be home for the holidays, and it's going to be like the worst timing ever because the election will have just happened. I'm going to be in Florida, which is like going to be so divided no matter what happens.
Oh no.
But it'd be fun to see. I just need to go back, and, you know, hopefully Scraggy can come. He will come if he can, but, you know, obviously things are tight right now with the borders. So
hey, Spraggy made a good run. That was a lot longer relationship than I gave him credit for.
I know.
Good game, Spraggy.
Honestly. Frankly, I didn't know he was capable of it, but yeah, it turns out, you know, not bad.
Oh man, we're ending with the tradition of just making fun of Spraggy for no reason on the way out of this pod.
Love it. Well, I mean, my next 6 months, I'm just in Philadelphia and doing all sorts of exciting online stuff. I'm actually participating in a poker fundraiser for Biden tomorrow, which is really fun.
Wow! Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, it's obviously going to be over by the end of this, but when this airs. But yeah, Alina at PLON is organizing it, and Linda Johnson, Jen Harmon are playing Maria Ho. So yeah, I'm really excited to take part in that. And then there was the POQ of Maine and a lot of chess stuff going on in October. So like the U.S. championships and the U.S. women's championships and all of my different girls and women's programs. It's like I keep pretty busy, even though I'm not actually leaving the house very much. Oh, and of course our weekly Mafia game.
Yes. Yeah, for anyone who doesn't play, friends of Jen, right? Jay is, I don't know how everyone knows each other. We just start playing Mafia and have these like heated discussions and kill each other and stuff. And there's people in the group I play with every week that I'm like, I'm not even sure their background. They just wandered into this game. But yeah, the app creator is a very nice guy and he keeps tweaking it for the stuff that we want, which is really cool. But yeah, it's called Party Mafia if anyone wants to download it. It's awesome and it sucks away 6 hours of my life each week, but I'm happy about it. We have a group chat too where we'll just finish a game and they'll be like 142 hours till the next game or whatever.
Yeah,
so,
like
yeah
500 messages. Yeah, it is beautiful to have some different ways to socialize in these difficult times. And obviously like poker is like such a great way to do that. And I think that this Party Mafia that we play is kind of interesting because you see like the same kind of things that people talk about a good poker game. Some people who are taking it really seriously, it's fun because then you realize like the game at its, pinnacle, well played. And then some people who are a little tipsy and like don't give a fuck, that's fun too. Like it's the mix of all the different types that make it fun, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a good time. Can you tell I don't want to wrap this pod because we don't get to hang out like this. I'm like, okay, think of any topic. We need any topic to keep Jen on longer. No, we should go so our editor doesn't murder us. But this has been so awesome. And thank you to Fabi and Daniel for letting us have you for an hour or so. And I hope the pandemic ends soon so I could see you in person. But until then, maybe we'll just have you on every week.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been so fun being with you both. And yeah, we'll have to drag Marle into one of our games as well. So.
Spraggy's into Among Us, which is like a similar thing. And I'm into it, but just like I can't play with Spraggy and Tonka because they just fucking the whole meeting. And I'm like, dude, you know what I mean? I lost my shit on them a few times. Now I'm done. But I'll come around.
Yeah. But until next time, guys, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.